Okay, my friends, just a warning, if you are allergic to sudden shock and trauma to your brain, please stop watching right now. I have no responsibility for anything that happens inside your cranium, but something is going to happen, I can guarantee you that. Alright, get ready. I'm going to tell you, get ready. Okay, like I said, get ready. This is what's considered a zone of hypoxia. This area here is absolutely dead. And it's coming right down into the Gulf from this area here, this colored zone here. Now here's what they have determined in academia. Well, let me explain something to you before I go any further. I've been doing videos on this specific formation here for years, and claiming what it is what it is, and it is what it is what I said it is what it is. Now, what does that mean? Well, it is what it is. Now, what is this? These are all academic articles. Now, this was from a friend of mine that sent me this about the salt formations, literally worldwide, but it's specifically here because this is a special type of salt. It's rock salt, and it's completely saturated with all kinds of organic matter that should not be within these salts if they were precipitated out. And let me just explain as we go along. So, hold on one second. All right. This is, again, from a friend of mine, Michael Boatwright, and he sent me this in regards to some other research that I had been doing, and he did some research into how academics portray this, and then somebody, Myron, was on. He's a mainstream geologist, and as people follow him, they follow me, and he was showing and trying to explain this, and absolutely missing virtually everything. And that's because they're taking a mainstream approach. They're saying this is all from farm runoff, making a hypoxia zone in here. It is not that way at all. And this zone here is, and I'll show you on Google Earth, and I'll show you why it's there, and I'll show you the different. There's a temperature zones there that are just unexplainable. There's deep sea asphalt seeping up, which is hydrocarbons that are just squished to bits. It's the temperature increases out here because it is so hypoxic, it's so toxic that it's heating up. It's hot. All right, so this is the zone right down here. This is this hypoxic zone. It's very shallow here. It's only a couple hundred feet. It's only 100 feet here, 100 feet deep. That's it. Very, very shallow, 97 feet deep. Here it starts to roll down, 500, 1,000, 15, 18, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. So it's coming over here and rolling down. Well, what is this stuff made of? Look at this. Let me turn the lights off. Sometimes it gets a little sharper. Look at this. These are little salt bubble domes, and they are extremely caustic. Basically, they're extremely salty. I think they said it's 6 times saltier than it should be here. Now, salt is it's chemically quite reactive. Now, this is how they're saying everything here is draining down. Now, let's see if this from a different angle, what we see. What if we twisted this a little bit that way, and we came over this way and came up and looked at this a little differently, like this dragon's head here was spitting this out into the Gulf, all of this toxic, hypoxic nastiness. What if that was a dragon's head? And what if this all the way up the coast was the dragon? And what if he was the feathered serpent? And what if this was his crown? And what if this was his head and his snaky body going all the way up the East Coast? And what if he spit that out? What would it look like? Could we see any of that? Ooh, that's Typhon. That's Typhon. He's the other one. He's in Africa. We'll look at him in a second. This is Typhon right here. But this is Quetzalcoatl. You see any similarity? This is his headdress. Now, if I could show you feathers in his headdress, and if I could show you feathers at the tip of his tail, and his headdress, and his beard, and all of this snaky-looking green stuff, feathered serpent, if I could show you all that, would you think it may have some basis in truth? And if I could show you text about this creature right here, Typhon, that was written in the BC times, well, it was written way back in the BC times, and he is also seen here. Okay, my friends, I must be honest with you, I've been interrupted several times. I don't know where I am in this video. Let me just go through these. Right here, I have shown you, I believe, Quetzalcoatl. This is the other one, the dragon in Morocco, who is Typhon. He's mentioned in all the ancient texts, Appolodorus specifically. Here he is outlined. All right, go back and look at this if you think I'm wrong. That's his throat. This is the dragon's scales to protect his throat. This is his red flared eye. This is spit. He's spitting down at the fish down below, which is the fish right here. He's spitting down at that fish, eating through his vital flesh. I showed, or will show, or have shown, or like 100 times. All of this stuff I keep showing over and over, and I get very little people, deeply interested in it enough so that a good conversation erupts. Now, I see that changing because the evidence is just overwhelming. It can't be denied anymore. Now, this was Zeus attacking Typhon, and that was all written about in Appolodorus. Look up Appolodorus 1.6.3. It talks about this creature right here. Only he's a dragon head, but all the rest is correct. He's all these viper coils, and his thighs were humans. They say, and it's exactly what it says in Appolodorus 1.6.3. Now, this was not something that wasn't known. Now, I know I showed you about Quetzalcoatl. Here he is, and here he is, and he's the one that spits salt all into the Gulf. Now, this guy spit whatever it is all over this area here. It's kind of nasty, and I mean real nasty. So, I'm going to just continue from here, but this is not something to scoff at. Now, you may find it overwhelmingly crazy and spectacular. No question whatsoever. I'm not asking you to just say, oh yeah, oh look at that, yeah, oh this is fine, have a nice day. No. You have to seek and see if you get disturbed, because if you get disturbed, you're on the path of becoming understanding. All right, that's exactly what Jesus said. He says, you will be disturbed and you will marvel. And if you don't marvel and just be disturbed about this, you got some kind of issues with life, my friends. All right, before I go too far, I just want you to understand, I do understand light very, very well. This is what a photon of light looks like. It's nothing more than this right here. Now, this particle is moving through the air like this. That's why this one, which is the same particle, this is just black and white, this one starts to glow because it's concussing. The one in the back gets dim. But once this gets so filled up that it can't take anymore, it pushes it to the back. And now this one comes forward, and now you have an upspin. The one at the front glows. And then that one gets so charged up, it flips. That's what's called the muon wobble. They keep flipping and flipping and flipping. That's the spin of the electron. Now, of the photon. Now, all this is two electrons. That's an electron, and that's an electron. They come together as light. That's a photon. That's an electron. We never knew this side exists. which is the dark side. We always just saw that, because that's the only thing that radiates back at us. This wants to just pull the white ones in. That's all it does. It never glows. It never emits anything. It doesn't reflect anything. But it will attract another electron. So the two of them together make a photon. A photon has a field surrounding it, a nice big field. And when that field bumps into anything else, it glows. And the things that it bumps into glows. And I can show you that right here. And then we're going to go on from here, and I'm going to show you a lot of stuff. Here, this is it right here. This particle is one of those photons. It's coming through the air. Everybody out in front of it has to say, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. So they start to glow. Their fields, they also have fields. Everybody's got a field. There is nothing that exists that doesn't have electrons. They are all made out of the same thing. When you push that, and you've got to get them out of the way, these are gases and water molecules and so forth, they got to get out of the way. They start to glow too. And this charges up, and then it goes blip, and then the bottom charges up, and it goes blip, and then the top charges up, and it goes blip, and the bottom charges up. That's what happens as light goes through the air. That's why it spins. All right, I either showed you or I will show you that we found these two particles, which this is from Fermilab. These are the two smallest particles that exist. The two of them attached together are what we always thought was an electron. Nobody's ever seen the dark part before. That's why. They're always attached together. Electrons are attached to the dark part. And I showed that, or will, and we can separate those two, but they're normally attached together, and then two pairs of these makes a photon. And that will bounce because it's semi-stable. It has two pairs side to side. And an electron, though, is only half. That will glue to you or it will burn into you. But we'll go to that in a second. This was my work from 1968 to 70, 71 in that area. These are the shapes of molecules. Can you see that? No, you can't. All right. This, I did a lot of work on this, and I came to the conclusion it was nothing but dipoles. Everything had to be a dipole. It had to have a positive and a negative. There was no such thing as a... Well, actually there is. You see, this is where it gets crazy, because you can separate them. But that's not what their normal condition is, where there's a proton that has one big positive core and one tiny little negative, and it's just the way it is. No. They're normally attached together, and they're same size. They're just like a little bar magnet. One of these white and one of these blacks. And that's exactly what we found in our research. Rod Warren and I did this research years ago, and it's exactly what they did at CERN and Fermilab, only we use light. So it was a lot cheaper, first of all, and secondly, we got a lot better results. And thirdly, it proved my dipole flood theory, and fourthly, if there is a fourthly, it shows that everything is dipoles. Everything is dipoles. I already said that, so that's still thirdly. And then fourthly, though, here's where I was working a lot with salts. And that's what we're talking about. Anyway, this is the key. This is 1968, 70, right in that area. The transfer of energy is from light to atomic vapor. Well, really, light is atomic vapor, and it's a dipole. They're just nothing but a dipole, and it's the smallest particle that exists. It's that right there in a photon shape, and I showed that. Anyway, this shows all these different crystals that you find are from bodily fluids. That's just what that's all about. Anyway, I did a lot of this stuff. I went all through everything, chemistry, all the electronics, everything that existed back then, and I have stuck with it since then. And this is the kind of stuff that we did. We found these particles. The same ones they want to find at CERN and Fermilab. And they do find them, but they just see them in piles of debris. We see them actually start to take off. So I'm pretty deep into the light, and I can show you 100% for certain that there is black and white in light. You see that black is pushing the white. The white is reactive. The black never gets any bigger than that, never gets any smaller. It's just one size fits all. It's pushing. The white gets glowier and glowier, but it can get lesser and lesser glowed. And this was a specific venturi that let some white and some black, let all the white through primarily, and then let some of the black through. The other venturi that Rod had only let the white through. And that was, let me see if I can find that. That's this one here. This is so tight that all the black backed out. You see it? This is all the black. It all backed out of here. See it? It's all those are black particles. They're all the same size. They're all the same size over here. All the same size over here. But they couldn't get through the slit. It was too small. So what they did was boom, 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 squirting this through. Now, if that could get squirted through and harvested right here with a thin film receiver, I don't see why we couldn't take that squirt, 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 squirt. You can see what it's doing. It's squirting like crazy coming out of there. You see it? And then they recombine with the black over here. But up till here, you got nothing but raw electrons. Those don't even push. They're just burners. They're hot little buggers. And that I can prove too. And they squirting through here. Now it's being forced through. All right? I showed you that black wave forcing the white ones. Same thing happens here, only on steroids. And in this case, the black can't go with them. So all we have is white. Squirt, 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 squirt. Every pulse. Because it's like a big black bar smashing against there, squirting it. It goes through a diode, which is a gate, basically. Think of it that way. The gate opens up and it pushes through, and it can't go back. Blip, boom, blip, boom, blip, boom, blip, boom. It's filling up, filling up, filling up, filling up. That's how batteries charge. This, and then you just do whatever you want with the electricity. Now, this can be so small. This right here is as tiny as you can get. Now, I think that's going to have a lot of electricity. And that's only one tiny, tiny, tiny little orifice. And I mean tiny, tiny, tiny. So, if the receiver, this is way bigger than it is. If you could fit a batch of those in something like this, and then just have a little converter in here that converts it to all these different positive, negative, AC, DC, different voltages and all that stuff. Charge your USB things, your phones and all that, right from something like this. Once you started this up, if it worked like I think it should work, you would never have to do anything after that. It would just run, and it's all solid state. Very simple stuff, laser, cheap, venturi, basically free, thin film, metal collector, solar panels, very, very cheap. And they'd be outside of the environment, so they'd be in these boxes or something like this, so there's not going to be any weathering to them. You may have to replace them. Who knows? This is all stuff's got to be tested. But if you could squirt that electricity down, it's coming down as raw electricity. Raw electricity. And I could show you what raw electricity is capable of doing. And if we could harvest it, we could, who knows? Who knows? All I'm saying is we could, in a month, we would know one way or the other, can we harvest that glow? And this is no question whatsoever that is an increase in energy. Anytime you increase the luminosity, you increase the energy. And let me see here. This is what it started out like. And this is what we ended up with. Raw white energy. This whole region is literally a subatomic nuclear explosion. That's literally what that is. That's exactly what that is. That two particles together in a four-pack, which is this one here, which is a photon. Can you see that? Those are the photons. That exploded. What does that mean? Subatomic, which is that, these are below the atomic size, explosion. Nuclear means these would normally congeal into a nucleus, which would be a proton. Here they're light. Eventually they would be absorbed into molecules or taken in as heat, or plants would use them to grow. They're particles. They're particles. All right? This is a little deeper than what you've been taught in your chemistry and science classes, and it needs to be looked at. This is not something that's silly. All right, remember this one. I told you that the other one, there was nothing but solid white in here, which is true. And then all of a sudden it started recombining with black out here in stripes of white and black. And I will show you that again just so to reinforce it. But this one is a different situation. This one, Rod allowed not just the white through, but just a taste of the black came through with it. The black is would get clogged up here, let's say. So only little bits of it come through, but enough that you can see it right here, pushing that wave of whiteness in front of it. They're two separate particles, completely separate. And at this case, they have completely separated. They're no longer white and black together, which is the diarac. They are now completely separated. The white shower, that is the white shower, and these are the black muon neutrinos pushing the white electron showers forward. All right, so this shows there's two particles, and I can show you right now, and I will, a house right here being burnt up by the white glowy particles that have no mass, exactly as Fermilab says, they have no mass and all burn. And then after this burns up this house, the black particles with all the mass and no burn hit the house and exploded. So what we're going to see is an atomic bomb go off, just like we see. This is an atomic bomb. This is a subatomic, same thing. It goes off, it's pushing all the white particles ahead of it, and the black wave comes second. The house being out here burns up, then it explodes. We want to harvest the burny part. Let's take a look at that actually happening. You know, this has turned into a ramble. I got interrupted several times, but this goes back to 4 years. 4 years ago. I was looking into Pistis Sophia, which is this mystery of the treasury of light. Now all of a sudden it's come back up to the surface, and people are looking into this. And I really sort of dropped out of it. I had a lot of other things going on. You know what I'm saying? You get to a point where people are not too interested. This time it seems to be they're very interested, and this plays into everything. And the light, if I didn't show you, you will see it. We've gone extensively into the light, and it is two separate particles, and the atomic bomb blast absolutely shows that without question. Okay, this is the atomic bomb test house. I believe it's close to a mile away. What's going to happen is they're going to set off the atomic bomb. Now, as I said, there's two particles. There's the white ones that always surround the black ones. We've never seen the black ones. Nobody's ever seen the black ones before, because the only thing that we ever see is the stuff that bounces back at us, which is the white ones. The black ones are on the other side of the white ones. So when that atomic bomb goes off, all the white ones that encrust the black ones will go first. In that wave we saw before, that white wave, and then behind it comes the black wave. So the white wave is going to be our particles that have pushed to show, but they have a glow to them. And they just burn everything that can absorb those electrons. It's the absorption of the electrons that causes the burn and the glow, and they combust. Then comes the black ones they're just solid bombers. Boom, they knock the house down. Here it goes right now. This is in slow motion. And this is, the atomic bomb's going to go off. He's going to see a huge glow. This is atomcentral.com. There's the glow of the white ones hitting, and just burning everything that can absorb the electrons, that has any room for them. The tank didn't burn up. The metal doesn't burn up. Now here comes the black ones, and they just explode. Now watch everything turn around and come back. And the reason it turns around and comes back is because there's a void. You want to see this again? Watch again. Here it goes. Boom! Here comes the white ones. Nothing but absorption. And all of the combustibles go. We have to think about what does that exactly mean, but that's a chemistry question. Boom! There it goes. Now all of that stuff is not burned anymore. It's just turning around and coming back. Zoom. If that's not two particles, I want you to explain to me why that happened that way. And this right here, my friends, is that atomic bomb coming right at that Venturi. And all of the white squirted out ahead of it, and the black was behind it. And here it is right here. All the black is pushing the white ahead of it. Two separate particles. Then they want to recombine. They will recombine, but at this point they're too excited to combine. They will recombine. Let me show you the recombination. All right, this is the recombination here. This Venturi, there is no black allowed, just the white. Now, I'm going to focus in a second, but I just want to give you the big picture. This is the Venturi, creating a very, very fine filtration accelerator. It focuses. Now, at this point, we have nothing but brilliant luminosity. We used a CMOS cell phone, a Galaxy S3, Samsung Galaxy S3. Years ago, 2014, I believe, was when we started with this. And you can see this luminosity. That's what CMOS does, is it picks up luminosity. It doesn't interfere with there is no observer effect. You're just looking at what's happening. Now, what they did with CERN and the rest of them, they put instruments inside to detect these things, which interfered with the magnetic fields. They call it the observer effect. They said every time we watch them, it changes them. So we're just watching. We're picking up what they're radiating. They're creating the radiation inside, and then picking up with instruments inside that affect the fields, if you can understand that. We are way off to the side just looking at it, just like looking out into space. And we did that too, and the particles in space are absolutely phenomenal. Now, what are you seeing here? This is where it comes back together. These are the black balls. You see them? They're the same size. Every one of them is the same size. Some of them you can see easier than the other ones. The white is on top of a lot of them. You can just barely see them. But the ones that are sitting on the top, they're all exactly the same. No changes whatsoever. The black never changes. Now, what does the white do? It glows, or it just fizzles out. Now, they're starting to fizzle out here in some places, but they're still very glowy here and there. All right, and you see those, they call these interference patterns. You see these stripes? Those are repulsion patterns, the same type of thing that happens in a galaxy. As it spins, the arms push the next arm, the next arm, the next arm. Same with here, because this guy says, I don't want to be next to this guy. He says, we'll set up a zone between, set up a zone between. It's push to shove, push to shove. Now, also, light spins this way. It doesn't go flapping around like this. This is single slit. And these are because the light is going to spin in this way sometimes, or coming over this way sometimes, through the slit. And I can prove that as well. And again, this is something that Rod did. He could prove anything I'm showing you, we can prove. That's the slit. That's the backdrop. This is the light spinning, just like a drill. You see that? That's a drill bit. You see it? You ask any machinist. They say, oh yeah, that's the tip of a drill. It's spinning this way. All right? It starts smacking into the side over here, and it's setting up spins, because they're all over here spinning. It's not just one particle spinning here. They're all over the place here. And I mean they're coming in streams. So some of them spin way off this side, some of them spin not so much, some of them spin way off to this side, but they all want to stay away from each other on the other side. That's why they create these bumps. It's not that they're exactly right on in that line, no. It's the fact that when they come to the other side, they set up a stream. And they set up a pretty good stream. And again, it depends on a lot of things. The distance the laser is from the orifice, the venturi width, the design, all that stuff. Rod did this for years and years and years, and he's still doing it. And some of the stuff he has is just very, very hard to explain. And people need to look into his work a little deeper. And I did, and I take all of the atomic stuff out of it, understanding, because that's what I do, is the atomic physics. Now, again, this is light. Light is the source of everything. Light is the source of all life. So what if, and this Pistis Sophia thing, I think I talked about that, is the treasury of light. This could be very extremely deep. But if it's laughed at, or if it's just considered not deep, that it's just not to be looked at, and anybody that would look at it has to be insane, that's not the way to look at this. The way to look at this is, let's investigate it. And that's what I do. And this is an investigation. Okay, my friends, this is my serious voice. This is not silly. This is about Pistis Sophia and how Jesus came back to earth and discoursed for 11 years with his disciples, his mother, Mary Magdalene, all of them. Now, this is Philip. And Philip wants to ask him a question. He says, "My Lord, can I speak? Will you allow me to speak?" And he says, "Authority is given. Ask what you want." So Philip says, "My Lord, on account of what mystery hast thou changed the binding of the rulers and their aeons and their fate and their sphere and all their regions, and made them confounded in confusion on their path and deluded in their course?" Why did he make them deluded? Why did he make them confused? "Hast thou done this unto them for the salvation of the world, or not?" Yes or no? So he's asking God, or Jesus. So why? What mystery is this all about? Why would you do something like this? Why have you changed the way they hold fast, which is our rulers? These are the rulers of the world and the aeons and their fate and their sphere. Why have you changed them and made them crazy and deluded and confused? And those are the people that control us now. Our rulers are the crazy ones, basically. And here's what happened. Here's what Jesus said. Jesus answered unto Philip and to all the disciples together. He says, "I have changed their path for the salvation of all souls." Amen, amen. "I say unto you, if I had not changed their path, a host of souls would have been destroyed, and they would have spent a long time if the rulers of the aeons and the numbers of the fate and of the sphere and of all their regions and all their heavens and all their aeons had not been brought to naught." We have to bring it to nothing. These false rulers, the people that rule as good regents, they're good monarchs, they're good shepherds. They take good care of the flock, basically. But these people some of them now, this is just not right what they're doing. And if here's what he says: "The fate and the sphere of all their regions, all their heavens, and all their aeons had not been brought to naught, and the souls would have continued a long time here outside in the completion of the number of perfect souls." We're looking for people to become better. Would have been delayed. Obviously, they're teaching you not to believe in anything righteous, basically. It's all for yourself. Make sure you make enough money, play the markets, do this, do that. That's fine to a degree. Everybody has to be, to a degree, self-centered. You have to make sure that you are taking care of your own business. I'm not against that. But when it's predatory, that's a whole different story. So he says if the number of those perfect souls would have been delayed. Everybody's trying to make, you're scratching at the ground trying to make a living. You can't become perfected in that environment. So the number of perfected souls is when we get manifest into a new realm, it appears. And again, I'm new to this. I'm trying to learn, and that's why I'm bringing this out. Now, Michael has a much better understanding of this than me. And then I have some other people that have contacted me about Pistis because they're looking into it too. These Gnostic texts were really suppressed, and if you look into that, you're a devil worshiper and all that nonsense. Well, I look into everything. I make my own decisions. So, and I haven't made any real solid conclusions yet. But I have found that I am completely drawn to Jesus Christ as the Son of God, and you better pay attention to the things he said. But understand what he said. Don't just say, oh, he must have said that and that's it, and that's all there is to it. Or this was written in the Bible and that's the end of it. No. Everything is held up to interpretation, first of all. I may see something totally different than you, same words. It's interpretation. That's number one. Number two is this wasn't all written by God himself. So the people that wrote all these words are, a lot of stuff was changed. And Michael seems to have some information about that too. And, you can back things up, look back and forth between different texts of different groups and different times and different writers and sort of get an idea of what really does make sense. And Appolodorus I start with, because that starts with Gaia and Tartarus and all of the things that we thought was just ridiculous. And now that you know about the dragons and all that stuff, it's no longer anything is ridiculous. There is nothing ridiculous. If this is true, which it is, I can guarantee you this is exactly what this is a dragon. And it is, I think, 1,100 miles long. And I can also guarantee you that this creature existed and is also in that area of length. And I have shown this, or will show you this. So we need to reconsider basically everything. And here it is right here. Here's my buddy Quetzalcoatl eating some big giant. Now, is that helping us? Or was he just hungry? I don't know. And here's the story about Zeus and Typhon. He cut his throat with his thunderbolt. And here's Typhon's, his thighs were a human, and the rest of his legs were scorpion, or I don't know what they call them. Here he is over here somewhere. Look at this. His thighs coming down to here, they're just almost human. And I've looked into the muscles and everything. It eroded, but you can see the muscles. This skin has eroded off to the side. But all those coils are going out there. And it was just, as you can see, I mean, if you can't see how big he is, you're just not looking. Because there he is, all the way across North Africa. All the way. And here's his thighs. They look just like human thighs. One here and one here. And then all that snaky coil stuff ran all the way across. This is still part of him over here. And still part of him over here. And he's attacking that fish. Now, you want to laugh at this? It's up to you. I go with reality. And reality right now tells me we should start looking at this a little deeper. And it starts with Pistis talking about dark and light. That's the way I'm taking it. Again, I am new to this. I'm a novice. I'm trying to learn. Because if this is eternity, mine is not that far away. I want to be ready as best I can. And I think I was selected to do this. I'm pretty sure I was. For some reason, I don't know why. I'm not a great person by any means. I had a lot of things I'm ashamed of, which I'm not going to confess to you. But trust me, everybody does, I think, but maybe not. Maybe some people are perfected souls. I am certainly not one of those. I am just here to beg for forgiveness. And maybe, and here's the way I got this figured out. You got Michael. He's right. He's doing a lot of research and work to show, or to at least open up discussion about these ancient texts that were written. And I am too. So when he does something like that, he gets 2 points for every person he converts. Or not converts even. Every person that pays attention to his work, he gets 2 points. I get 1 point for sharing his work. If I do the work, I get 2 points. If you share my work, you get 1 point. All right, if you share his work, you get 1 point. So you got to share, though. If you don't share, you get no points. And I'm going to tell you, points add up. And I'm not kidding you. You think I'm just being a big joke out of this. As Michael said, this is your serious voice. And it is my serious voice, my friends. A very serious voice. Okay, I mentioned Michael Boatwright. And he, in addition to sending me the information about the salt domes, he's also doing something here. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he also included this about Pistis Sophia and the mystery of the light. And that is what I also study, is the light, because I believe the light is literally makes everything. Light is atomic vapor. All right? I wrote this in 1970. I can show you where I wrote it in my books. And as a matter of fact, I will. But the mysteries of light. Light is what everything is made of. And there's a dark and a white side to it. It's a dipole. Everything is a dipole. There is no white side and no dark side that they can separate. And one of them appears to be not so good, and one of them appears to be the brilliant light and which they talk about. There was no words for the radiance that was about him, that type of things that they talk about. These are the radiant light. And then there's the darkness. And the darkness attracts. And I'm telling you, this is what light does. It's exactly what it talks about. So I'm very interested, and this is as deep as it gets. This Pistis Sophia was about, right here, let me just read to you his introduction. This is very long, and I don't know what's going to end up going here, whether it's going to be a book or what it is. But I'm telling you, he's got a lot to offer, and I now have to go along with Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and he came to help us out. But you have to seek. You can't just sit here and say, oh boy, because I believe. No, you have to take a quick look around. Well, not quick. You have to really look. And this is what this is about. This is going to be deep. This is books 1 through 6 of Pistis Sophia, The Mysteries of Light Teachings, a compilation of sacred mystery teachings. These are mysteries. These are the things that not everybody was taught because they were so above the average mindset that they just throw rocks at you for saying these things. And trust me, that's a fact. So they were mysteries. As a matter of fact, authoritatively states the following: they were emanated from the first space of the ineffable one. They are the esoteric teachings. So this is right from the top. These are the esoteric teachings, discourse to the disciples, including the women by the Savior, who is Jesus, 11 years after his resurrection. He came back, let me just continue on. Before his exit to the height and after his return to earth in a spectacular cosmic display. 6 hours later, apparently after, this is stuff I don't know about, and I have questions to ask, trust me. But it says he came from his spectacular return to earth in a spectacular cosmic display 6 hours later. It's the manual sent for the elect, the ones that he wants to be taken to wherever we're going. All right, he wants this manual for the elect. So you better start reading the manual. The righteous and the sinners, even the sinners of a future generation. So he wrote this saying, people better watch this. Scribed and witnessed by Philip, Matthew, and Thomas. And these were actual words right out of his mouth. And these Gnostic teachings should be looked at. Now, I don't care which way you go. I have a lot of people calling me names for, oh, you're going into some kind of black magic or whatever. No, I'm not. I am reading what was written. I am a researcher. I'm a material researcher. I just showed you, or will show you, that there's creatures on this earth nobody in the world can explain. Nobody. What did they eat? How could they walk around? What kind of games did they play? I have no idea. There are material substances here that I am trying to understand. And when I see something relate back to like Appolodorus and Typhon, that really trips my mind. And it might trip yours too. But I am really interested in doing, I actually did a long discussion. We were going to put it on a video and put it on my channel, but we got into so many different, it turned into a real ramble, and it was me. It wasn't him. And, that's just the way I do it. So what we're going to have to do is, because this is so deep, you can't pick and start to talk about planes of existence and then something else over here and then, certain people and creatures and monsters and, it all just turned into a jumble. And it was me, just like it's turned into a jumble right now. What we need to do is somehow get this in a format, and he seems to be pretty good at this. This goes pretty long. So I'm going to hope that this turns into something, maybe a book or whatnot. And I want to understand this. I want to understand the mysteries of the light, because that's one of the things that I do understand is light. I understand it very well. And it's got a dark and a white side, just as I'll show you right now. Okay, doing this under the Fair Use Act, and I have some startling information for you, and it is truly amazing. Now, this is from the YouTube video. It's called The Second Book of Enoch, Human Voice Read-Along Version. Now, and it talks about Michael, the Lord's arch Esoteric, lifted me up and brought me in front of the face of the Lord. Now this is Enoch. And the Lord said to his servants, sounding them out, let Enoch join in and stand in front of my face forever. And the Lord's glorious ones did obeisance and said, let Enoch yield in accordance with your word, O Lord. Now, Enoch did all these things. They anointed him. They put him in clothing that was like the Lord's, and he said there was no difference between his look and their look. And he is now with God in his front of his face. And guess what happened? God says, you write these books and make sure that all the people know what the rules are, and you write them, and they got him all the equipment to write it, and they said to get him a speed pen and a knife and a this and a that, and they wrote all these books, 366 books he wrote. And then guess what happened? When they made the new Bible in 325 or somewhere in that area, there was a couple of conferences, and they came up with a new version which threw all the real stuff out, which was, stand in front of my face forever, write these books and show them to everybody, and they throw them out. Whoa, not right, not correct at all. Now, what else did they throw out? They threw out Thomas, doubting Thomas, who walked up and touched his wounds, wrote every word that Jesus said, literally, almost, word for word while he was alive. So this isn't the guy who's walking around with him. This is not some guy that wrote 500 years later, and so we must have said this, must have said that, like we're doing. And they took him out too. Now this is not right. Something's very, 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 very wrong. And what does it say here? Gnostics. And let me just tell you something. Both the Gnostic texts, the Nag Hammadi texts, a bunch of scrolls hidden, stuffed away, because they knew they were going to throw them away and ruin them and burn them so that nobody would know this truth. They were found almost at the same time, literally within a year or so, of the Dead Sea Scrolls, another stash of these kind of books that were hidden Enoch was in there, and all kinds of stuff. The Book of Giants, all these things that were true, and right at the source true, not just something that somebody sort of guessed at. And these were people, eyewitnesses, that wrote reverently and stashed this stuff away. And look exactly what it says here. These are the, look at it says here, visit the Gospel of Thomas collection. These are the secret sayings that the living Jesus spoke and Didymus Judas Thomas recorded. Doubting Thomas. He said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. And then he says, Jesus said, those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed, and that is a fact. When they are disturbed, they will marvel, and that is a fact. And will reign over all the people that had no clue, and that is a fact. And after they have reigned, they will rest. And I hope that's a fact, because I need some rest. All right, let's go into it. All right, hidden. A hidden book. This is just not right. People have to wake up and pay attention. Look what it says here. This is the Pistis Sophia. Jesus came back to earth and lived here 11 years. And these are the transit texts. It came to pass when Jesus had risen from the dead, and he passed 11 years discoursing with his disciples here on earth, and instructing them only up to the regions of the first commandment and up to the regions of the first mysteries. Now, and then it goes on and on and on. You can read it, and I'm going to show you some more from a version on YouTube that is a spoken version. It's coming up right now. Okay, this is by Spoken Scriptures, Pistis Sophia, Female Voice Audiobook. Excellent. Now, what they're going to talk about here, well, what Jesus is talking about, that the people that have their turned to the left are always facing badness. They're doing bad things all the time. When they face to the right, they're doing the right things. Now, he is confusing them and destroying their thoughts at this moment and sending them into delusions to straighten them out. So just listen to what it says. It's very confusing, but I'll try to give you my thoughts on it, and I may not be right, but I'm going to try to tell you what I think. But what Jesus is saying here is that these people have been so bad for so long that he's just all of a sudden going to try to straighten them out by deluding them and forcing them to look at things in a reverse direction, and it's going to hit like a slam right in their forehead. So listen to this.
And in their triangles and in their octagons, in which they were busied, continuously turned to the left.
Turn to the left is bad.
And I have made them spend 6 months forming all their configurations turned to the right,
now he wants
in order that they may be confounded in confusion in their whole range. And moreover, I have made them spend 6 months turned to the left, and accomplishing the works of their influences and all their configurations, in order that the rulers who are in the aeons and in their spheres and in their heavens and in all their regions may be confounded in confusion and deluded in delusion, so that they may not understand their own paths. Chapter 22.
Jesus is trying to mess them all up. It came to pass
then, when Jesus had finished saying these words, while Philip sat and wrote all the words that Jesus spake. Thereafter then it came to pass that Philip came forward, fell down, and adored the feet of Jesus, saying, My Lord and Saviour, grant me authority to discourse before thee, and to question thee on this word, before thou discoursed with us concerning the regions whither thou didst go because of thy ministry. And the compassionate Saviour answered and said unto Philip,
I'm just going to tell you this right now. Philip wants him they're all asking for permission to ask the deepest of the secrets, and that's exactly what he's doing now. And Jesus is compassionately allowing them to ask their questions, and he's granting them the answers. So listen.
Authority is given thee to bring forward the word which thou willest. And Philip answered and said unto Jesus, My Lord, on account of what mystery hast thou changed the bindings of the rulers and of their aeons and of their fate and of their sphere and all the regions, and made them confounded in confusion on their path and deluded in their course?
Because
hast thou
they
then
were bad.
done this unto them for the salvation of the world, or hast thou not? Chapter 23. And Jesus answered and said unto Philip and to all the disciples together, I have changed their path for the salvation of all souls. Amen, amen. I say unto you, if I had not changed their path, a host of souls would have been destroyed, and they would have spent a long time, if the rulers of the aeons, and the rulers of the fate and of the sphere, and of all their regions, and all their heavens, and all their aeons had been brought to naught, and the souls would have continued a long time here outside, and the completion of the number of perfect souls would have been delayed.
All right, when they say outside, that means outside of their order, what they should have done. And the completion of the souls would have been delayed. And this is what Jesus is supposed to do, come down. He said, my Father gives me all these people, and I'm going to take them, and I don't want to lose even a one. And he was losing every single one. Listen to this.
Which soul shall be counted in the inheritance of the height through the mysteries, and shall be in the treasury of the light.
Treasury
For
of the
this
light.
cause
We
then
are
I have
light.
changed their path, that they might be deluded, and fall into agitation, and yield up the power which is in the matter of their world, and which they fashion into souls, in order that those who will be saved might be quickly purified and raised on high, they and the whole power, and that those who shall not be saved might be quickly destroyed.
And that is what's going to happen. And it's just the way it works. Now, if you want to go your own way, go your own way, do what you think is right. But I would come and look at this and start studying, because this, the way it looks to me, everything has just fallen totally into place. I found the giants. They are supposed to be kept in chains of darkness until judgment. I had them DNA tested. They are human giants. Then I found that the earth is just covered with creatures and is literally a creature. And then I discovered that Comet 67P in space is a tendon from a giant creature. Then I discovered that the manna that fell from heaven fed the Exodus survivors in the desert was literally Jesus' body. It was the placenta from when he was born in space, exactly identical what was said in Revelations 12. It says she was standing on the moon giving birth in space. Her feet were on the moon, and she, obviously she gave birth in space, and there was a placenta, umbilical cord, and blood. And all of those three things fell on the earth as milk pellets from the placenta, as red dust from the blood, and as pellets of stone from the mineralized umbilical cord. Now you can think, oh, this is silly, and laugh. Or you can think maybe it'd be a good time to look at things. That's your decision.
Chapter 24. It came to pass then, when Jesus had finished saying these words unto his disciples, that Mary, the fair in her discourse, and the blessed one, came forward, fell at the feet of Jesus, and said,
She
My
is
Lord,
the most blessed.
suffer me that I speak before thee, and be not wroth with me, if oft I give thee trouble questioning thee. The Saviour, full of compassion, answered and said unto Mary, Speak the word which thou willest, and I will reveal it to thee in all openness. Mary answered and said unto Jesus, My Lord, in what way will the souls have delayed themselves here outside, and in what type will they be quickly purified? And Jesus answered and said unto Mary, Well said, Mary, thou questionest finely with thy excellent question, and thou throwest light on all things with surety and precision. Now therefore, from now on I will hide nothing from you, but I will reveal unto you all things with surety and openness. Hearken then, Mary, and give ear, and all ye disciples. Before I made proclamation to all the rulers of the aeons, and to all the rulers of the fate and of the sphere, they were all bound in their bonds, and in their spheres, and in their seals, as you, the overseer of light, had bound them from the beginning. And every one of them remained in his order,
Mary
and
is
every
the
one
overseer
journeyed
of
according
light.
to his course, as you, the overseer of light, had established them.
Mary is.
And when the time of the number of Melchizedek, the great receiver of the light, came, he was wont to come in the midst of the aeons and of the rulers who are bound in the sphere and in the spate. And he carried away the purification of the light from all the rulers of all the aeons, and from all the rulers of the fate, and from those of the sphere.
All right, it gets very confusing, but like I said, I do light research. And light is a spinning particle that comes from the sun It travels through the vacuum of space as still an energetic particle. It is dark matter and dark energy in the vacuum of space. It doesn't just fade away into nothingness as it travels through space. And then when it hits Earth or anything else, it becomes matter. It grows. It is the light is the source of light, and it is the source of matter. It grows everything. Without light, nothing grows ever. Now, it says here that Mary is the keeper of light. And what that means is, it says that they collect the essence of all humanity and all of the rulers and all of these things. Then she brings it to the light purifier, the light receiver. And he receives the light, which is the light of I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing here. But I'm telling you, it says that she collected all of the living light. That it's the way I'm seeing it. Somehow she's got all of this energy. It's the light. It's the energy, and she delivers it to somebody to clean it back up again, to purify it. That's what it says. That's all I can tell you. Now, and then, well, just listen. I think it talks about it. Hold on.
For he carried away then that which brings them into agitation, and he set in motion the hastener which is over them, and made them turn their circle swiftly. And he, the hastener, carried away with their power which was in them, and the breath of their mouth, and the tears of their eyes, and the sweat of their bodies.
He took their essence,
and Melchizedek,
their energy,
the receiver of light, purifieth those powers, and carrieth their light into the treasury of the light, while the servitors of all the rulers gather together all matter from them. And the servitors of all the rulers of the fate, and the servitors of the sphere which is below the aeons, take it, fashion it into souls of men and cattle and reptiles and wild beasts and birds, and send them down into the world of mankind. And further, the receivers of the sun and the receivers of the moon, if they look above and see the configurations of the path of the aeon, and the configurations of the fate and those of the sphere, then they take from it the light power, and the receivers of the sun get it ready and deposit it, until they hand it over to the receivers of Melchizedek, the light purifier. And their material refused they bring to the sphere which is below the aeons, and fashion it into souls of men, and fashion it also into souls of reptiles, and of cattle, and of wild beasts and wild birds, according to the circle of the rulers of that sphere, and according to all the configurations of its revolution. And they cast them into this world of mankind, and they become souls in this region, as I have just said unto you. Chapter 26. This then they accomplished continuously before their power was diminished in them, and they waned and become exhausted or powerless. It came to pass then, when they became powerless, that their power began to cease in them, so that they might become exhausted in their power, and their light, which was in their region, ceased, and their kingdom was destroyed, and the universe became quickly raised up. It came to pass then, when they had perceived this at the time, and when the number of the cipher of Melchizedek, the receiver of the light, happened, then had he come out again, and enter into the midst of the rulers of all the aeons, and into the midst of all the rulers of the fate, and of those of the sphere, and he threw them into agitation, and made them quickly abandon their circles.
This
and
is where he hits
they were constrained, and cast forth the power out of themselves, out of the breath out of their mouths, and of the tears of their eyes, and the sweat of their bodies.
All the lies.
And Melchizedek, the receiver of the light, purified them, as he doth continually. He carrieth their light into the treasury of the light. And all the rulers of all the aeons, and the rulers of the fate, and those of the sphere, turn to the matter of their refuse. They devour it, and do not let it go, and become souls in the world.
I just have to explain this to you. When it says it devours their refuse, that means the sayings is what the things that they say are refuse to the world, and they stop the world from progressing.
They devour then their matter, so that
they
may not
eat their
become
own words
powerless and
back up.
exhausted, and their power cease in them, and their kingdom become destroyed. but in order that they may delay and linger a long time until the completion of the number of perfect souls who shall be in the treasury of the light. Chapter 27. It came to pass then, when the rulers of the aeons, and those of the fate, and those of the sphere continued to carry out this type, turning on themselves, devouring the refuse of their matter, and not allowing souls to be born into the world of mankind, in order that they might delay in being rulers, and that the powers which are in their powers, that is, the souls, might spend a long time here outside.
You see, that is the power that is within the powers of the controllers, is the souls of men. They control that because they have told you what you have to believe. And now Jesus is going to slap them.
They then persisted doing this continually for 2 circles.
2,000 years.
It came to pass then, when I wished to ascend for the ministry, for the sake of which I was called by the commandment of the first mystery, that I came up into the midst of the tyrants of the rulers of the 12 aeons, with my light vesture about me, shining most exceedingly, and there was no measure for the light which was about me.
And they killed him.
It came to pass then, when these tyrants saw the great light which was about me, that the great adamants, the tyrant and the tyrant of the 12 aeons, all together began to fight against the light of my vesture, desiring to hold it fast among them, in order to delay in their rulership. This then they did, not knowing against whom they fought. When then they mutinied and fought against the light, thereon by command of the first mystery I changed the paths and the course of their aeons, and the paths of their fate and of their sphere. I made them face 6 months towards the triangles on the left, and towards
One
the
last
squares,
chance.
and towards those in their aspect, and towards their octagons, just as they had formerly been. But their matter of turning or facing I changed to another order, and made them other 6 months face toward the work of their influences in the squares on the right, and in their triangles, and in those in their aspect, and in their octagons. And I made them to be confounded in great confusion, and deluded in great delusion, the rulers of the aeons, and all the rulers of the fate, and those of the sphere. I sent them in great agitation, and thence they were no longer able to turn towards the refuse of their matter to devour it,
Teachers,
in order that their regions
politicians.
may continue to delay, and they themselves may spend a long time as rulers. But when I had taken away 1/3 of their power, I changed their spheres, so that they spent a long time facing to the left, and another time facing to the right. I have changed their whole path and their whole course, and I have made the path of their course to hurry, so that they may be quickly purified and raised up quickly. And I have shortened their circles, and made their path more steady, and it will be exceedingly hurried. And they were then thrown into confusion in their path, and from then on they were no more able to devour the matter of the refuse of the purification of their
They
life.
can't hide their lives.
And moreover, I have shortened their times and their periods, so that the perfect number of souls who shall receive the mysteries and be in the treasury of light shall be quickly completed. For I have not changed their courses, and I have not shortened their periods. They would not let any soul come into the world because of the matter of their refuse, which they devoured, and they would have destroyed
their
many
lives.
souls. For this cause I said unto you aforetime, I have shortened the times because of my elect, otherwise no soul would have been able to be saved. And I have shortened the times and the periods because of the perfect number of souls who shall receive the mystery, that is to say, the elect. And I have not shortened their periods. No material soul would have been saved, but they would have been perished in the fire which is in the flesh of the rulers. This, then, is the word on which thou doth question me with precision.
Well, that's what you heard. And the elect are the ones that have decided to listen and study and understand and realize that, they've been misled. And if you can't understand that, I guess you're just going to have to do whatever you do. But that's just, I'm just showing you. So it's up to you. I'd look into this. The Gnostic texts were the words virtually right out of the mouth of God, right out of the mouth of Jesus. I don't know why they took them out, but I've got my suspicions.